Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam, and in this video I'm going to be talking about lots of different screening plants. I've been on a landscape job for the last week, and over the last 2 or 3 years I've done jobs at this place, and I have amassed quite a few different screening plants on this facility. I did not go into great detail on each of the plants. As you'll see in the video, I just put the name of the plant and the zones that they'll grow in. Most of these plants I have individual videos for, and on my YouTube channel I have a playlist called Screening Plants. And if you'll go to that playlist, you can find most of these plants with longer descriptive videos if you're interested in them, or if it's a plant that grows in your zone and you're interested in more information on it, you can go and watch that video to learn more about them. But I just thought this would be an interesting place to walk around and see about probably 20 or so varieties of screening plants that I've used for various different types of screening. So if this video is helpful, please hit the like button and don't forget to share it. Thanks for watching. I'll start with these Leyland Cypress, which most people know because they're so popular. This line used to run all the way across here, but because of various wind and ice events, they've lost them down to this space right here, and this one right in here. I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see it. It's kind of dark on this side of these trees, but this one's dying out here at the bottom, just for all kinds of various reasons. We're losing Leyland Cypress in my area. I'm in zone 7B. It may not be as bad in some other areas. I know that if you don't get wind and ice events, there certainly are beautiful trees, and they can get 40 or 50 feet tall over time, but this place has lost them. So what I've done is come out to this outside the fence on this property, and over time I've been putting in material along this fence on the outside to block it, rather than coming back in and blocking it within their own space and leaving this grass area open to pets and that kind of thing. But today I'm putting in these oak leaf hollies right here. These are really beautiful, upright, narrow hollies, dark green foliage, get the red berries in the future. The nice thing about some of these new hollies, this one's oak leaf. There's one called Robin, I'll show you in a few minutes, that I've planted here. There's one called Oakland. They look prickly, but you can grab a hold of them. They're just not bad anymore. It's kind of a nice feature of some of these new varieties of hollies. I'm putting this Zelkova here, which is a great urban tree. Most of the branching goes up, so it won't be in anybody's face out here on this sidewalk. Moving on down this line, these are some knockout roses. I have not planted these. I've been on this job for several years, but these knockout roses were already here. There is a disease that's creeping up in a lot of these roses right here in the new growth that I think is going to require these to be removed at some point in the future. There's some Loropetalum here, which would make absolutely fantastic screening plant out here, but the person doing the maintenance is just carving them off 3 or 4 feet in height. I'd prefer them to come in here and cut them way down when they cut them, and then allow them to grow up over this fence, throughout the summer, and then maybe in the early spring every year take them back down. Here's another example of this bad pruning job. This is a Chindo Viburnum. It gets 20 feet tall, beautiful, narrow, upright specimen, but instead it's being cut down to 3 feet in height and looks like a little donut. I'm putting a couple more of these on each side of it, and if they'll stop pruning these make fantastic screening plants. There's some more of these Loropetalum that are pruned funny. I'm going to have to replace these roses probably next year. This is another example of some not great pruning. These Cleyera look beautiful pruned like this, but the goal of all these things that I've put out here on the outside of this fence was to get them tall enough to block the space behind it, and they're just being pruned too low, but they are beautiful plants. That's a Cleyera japonica. I have not covered any Cleyeras yet in videos, but most of the other things I'm showing you I have. These grasses create a nice little buffer between these evergreen shrubs, and again, these will get 6 or 8 feet once they're established. These were just planted last year, so they didn't put on as much growth this year as they will in the future. Here's another one of these Chindo Viburnums that needs to be allowed to get bigger. As we move on down, there's just more of these Cleyera. I'm rotating in here. I'm gonna put a Chindo Viburnum here today. And then the grasses, just rotating back and forth, and then just using upright, narrow trees like these Zelkovas that won't interfere with anyone out here on the sidewalk. In the middle should look fantastic. It just needs to be allowed to grow. We're planting these green giant Arborvitae today right here. Normally you don't need a screening plant that gets 40 or 50 feet tall But when they're building 3-story tall skinny houses next to you, sometimes you do, to block them out as high as we want to block them out. It'll take several years for these to grow, but these green giants can grow 3-4 feet a year once they get established. I'm behind these houses now, and I guess this homeowner decided to put these Cryptomeria in here. Unfortunately, these Cryptomeria are going to get 50 feet tall and probably destroy that fence over time. So really needs a more upright, narrow thing in this space than this Cryptomeria. It'll be a good choice for a while, but eventually it will fill way beyond the space that's here. All this is a lot of construction trash around this space that I'm working in, but they put 1, 2, 3 in, and they put them so close to the fence that eventually they'll have to be taken out someday, but they're going to need something really narrower here. Probably an emerald arborvitae or a Degroot's arborvitae would have been a better choice here. There's some wooded space behind this property back here, and I'm using some native Yaupon hollies, which will get very, very tall and skinny in this space right here to try to block some of this. But I need something that will stay full and low light, and sometimes a native plant is the best call for that. Here are some Hollywood junipers that I put on the west wall of this building last year. It really cooks over here in the afternoon, and these Hollywood junipers are perfectly happy. This is a different type of screening where you've got this big giant building and you just want to get something to kind of soften that brick. So I'm screening the building rather than screening a neighbor. These are blue point junipers here that can probably get 12 or 15 feet over time. Actually, will get too large for this space in time, but they can stay here for a long, long time and create a nice little screen of all this metal work around this building. I put these emerald arborvitae in these containers right here. I suggested that for that other house over there. They can stay in these containers over the winter, but probably sometime next summer we need to find a place to put them in the ground. Here's the swimming pool area at this condominium site. And on one side over here, on the road side, I got these ruby Loropetalum, which again are being pruned weird by the maintenance company. But on this side, I definitely want to just screen the pool from even being here, so nobody can even see it from the roadside. But on this side, where the condominiums actually are, what I've done is plant some grasses. I've got some tall growing miscanthus there, and then a dwarf fountain grass sticking out from it right there. And I'm not really trying to create a screen of the pool as much as I am just a little bit of a sound barrier. These things will get up to about the height of the fence right there every year and then get cut down in the late winter. Hopefully they allow them to go through the winter before they cut them down. Sometimes they won't, but it is best to let them go through the winter. So that's just two different types of screening in the same spot. One, I'm actually trying to get rid of any view of the pool whatsoever from the roadside. And from the other side, I'm just trying to create a sound barrier. Here is a very, very long line of screening plants that I did last year, maybe even the year before. This is a Nellie Stevens holly, and these are recurve ligustrum. And what I did was I did 1, 2, 3 ligustrum, and then 1 Nellie Stevens, and then the same thing, 1, 2, 3, and then the Nellie Stevens holly all the way down just to give it some different look. But both of these are very industrial. Both will get, you know, in the 15, maybe even 20 foot growth over time. The recurve ligustrum need to be pruned a little bit at the top in the spring, probably all to the same height, and that'll fill them out down at the bottom. The nice thing about these two plants together, and I did the same thing at my house, is this becomes more shady as it goes way, way, way back down this line, and both these plants are tolerant of sun or shade. So really kind of works to have those if the space is changeable. The area in the back of this property is actually a wetland that won't be developed, but every single thing in the winter loses its leaves back there and goes to sleep, and it looks kind of dismal. It's like a dismal swamp about 6 months out of the year. So last year I put in these robin hollies. These are very nice, really super dark green foliage on this variety. This variety, fertilized the same and grown the same, will make other hollies kind of look off color a little bit. It's always super, super dark green. This is robin holly, and it's going to get big. It'll be big and tall over time, and there's a whole line of these going down, and I really didn't put these in very close together. I put a lot of space between them. I wasn't really trying to create a barrier to prevent somebody from seeing in, because there's nothing back there. Just trying to put something on this line that keeps its foliage in the winter time. This is another west wall on a separate building, and this is a blue ice cypress. It'll eventually outgrow this space over the next 20 years or so, but it's beautiful and it's able to take this heat from this side of the building here in this narrower space going down the side. These are more Hollywood junipers that work perfect, like I say, on this west wall like they do on the other one. These were just put in recently. This blue eye cypress I did not put here, but it is quite beautiful here and it's able to take this heat quite nicely. Unfortunately, it'll grow out to here, here, and probably out past here somewhere over a long period of time. So it's not perhaps the greatest choice there, but it is between you and a neighbor if you've got some width. So this is a south wall, so it's getting a lot of sun here in the winter time. It actually end up in the shade. I'm far enough south that the sun will be, in the peak of the summer, I'll be on the other side of this building, so it's really not too bad back here for these conifers. This is a Degroot Arborvitae. Gets very tall and skinny. It can probably end up almost at the height of this building over time. It's just here to soften this wall in this very narrow bed. These are Nellie Stevens hollies here and on the other end that were put in last year. But this Degroot's Arborvitae is fantastic if you have a super narrow space that you need to get some height on a wall or between you and a neighbor. That person where I showed you earlier on that fence, this would have been a great choice here to not outgrow or put pressure on that fence over time. This is a fragrant tea olive that I put in last year. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but there's flowers on it right there in December. Blooms in the cold months of the year and on warm days is incredibly fragrant. Great screening plant. Really, probably if it's in open space though, needs to be in zone 8 or higher. The area I'm in right now is zone 7A, and it's on a wall here that'll hold some heat at night, so it should be fine in this space, and it made it through last winter fine. This is the east wall of these condominiums. These are Camellia Sasanquas right here, which are blooming right now, and I've got them planted in between these windows to get some height up on these windows over time. These will become very large evergreen shrubs, and they bloom like this in the fall, October, November, December, maybe even into January. Last but not least, I wanted to show you screening overkill. These are Steed's hollies right here, which are Japanese hollies, have little round leaves, no berries or anything on these, and the leaves aren't pointed at all on the Japanese hollies like this. But these, as you can see, get 15 feet high and grow like Christmas trees. They're surrounding a telephone box that's behind this, and seems like a lot of overkill for that purpose. Probably could have gotten away with something that gets 4 or 5 feet tall, but I did want you to see these. These are great screening plants, and they grow like Christmas trees like this without having to do a lot of pruning on them.